Hello and welcome back to Chiefsman's Corner Live. I will be on Discord audio as well as YouTube comments tonight. If anyone's around, please DM me in Discord if you want to hop on the show live. I'm your host, Coach Winuvas, one of the leadership team here in WFL and the coach of the Arizona Cardinals. This show, we're going to dive into our early Season 7 action with some Week 2 recaps. We'll also have our players of the podcast back after a little bit of a hiatus, as well as our Ask the Chiefs segment if questions are available, which, spoiler, they are. If anyone's tuned in, welcome aboard. Thanks for listening. You can comment in YouTube chat, and I'll be responding to any comments. If you wish to comment live on the show, just let me know via Discord DM and hop into the WFL Network Studios voice chat area. Mute yourself, please, when you jump in there, and then we'll fire off to you. If you're watching the recording of this, however, we still thank you for watching. Any and all support is appreciated. Without you guys, the WFL doesn't exist. First thing to talk about tonight, as almost always, is the WFL's incentive plan. This plan allows you to get some perks that aren't available for every member simply by doing some extracurricular activities that involve WFL. Anything from Twitter to articles on the Neon Sports site to commenting or participating in the show, even chatting in Discord can earn you experience points. Anything that makes the WFL a more immersive experience and increases its presence in the Madden community earns you some sort of credit. Link to the incentive plan is available using the command /incentive plan. That's all one word, /incentive plan in Discord. Excuse me. A little bit of a cold here as the weather changes. Next thing to talk about is our form, the Ask the Chief form. Use this form during the week between episodes to submit any questions you have for me, and I'll answer them during the show, giving you credit for the question. It's an easy way to build up incentive points and provide extra content for the podcast. Use the command /AskTheChief. That is all one word, /AskTheChief, to pull up the form in Discord. With our housekeeping out of the way, let's recap the scores from Week 7 action, or Week 2 action of Season 7, and highlight our offensive and defensive players of the podcast from Week 2 of Season 7. As we come up to the big board here, let me get it up and for you guys, and here we go. As we talk from top to bottom, excuse me, we had the Houston Texans with a little bit, I would say, of an upset over the Jacksonville Jaguars. 31-28 is your final here. Houston and Jacksonville early in the season both are at 500 at 1-1 apiece. Another upset as the WFL World Champion Colts fall to 0-2 on the season with a 37-35 loss to the 2-0 Tennessee Titans. So a barn burner there, and Juke finds himself in a rarefied air in 0-2 early in the season, but it's still very, very early. He got plenty of time to come back from that deficit. The Los Angeles Chargers continue their undefeated season with a 38-31 win over the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta falls to 500, and the Chargers go to 2-0. 37-20 is your final between the Denver Broncos and the Baltimore Ravens. The Broncos rise to 2-0 to join the Chargers as undefeated in the AFC West, while the Ravens fall to 0-2 and a little bit of a disappointing, I'll say, question mark, AFC North. Baltimore Ravens fall to 0-2 with the 37-20 loss. Buffalo and the Meat Boy and the Bills, 45-20 in an AFC East matchup between the Miami Dolphins and the Bills. Buffalo goes to 2-0 on the season, while Miami falls to 1-1 on the season. I realize this says 1-2. They have played their Week 3 game. 38-31 is your final between AFC North foes as the surprising Pittsburgh Steelers at 1-1 are leading the AFC North. More on that later in the show. The Cincinnati Bengals fall to 0-2 with the loss. 38-31 your final there. The Jets host the Chicago Bears and drum them up. 37-20 is your final. The Jets move to 2-0 on the young season, while the Bears are struggling to find answers and are 0-2 on the season. In a simulated game, the Chiefs beat the Raiders 21-17. Las Vegas falls to 500, and Kansas City rises to 500 on the season. 31-23 is your final between the Buccaneers and the Packers. The Bucs get their first win for Coach Baratz in the WFL. Congratulations to him. Hopefully the first of many. And the Packers fall to 1-1. They have won their Week 3 matchup. Week 2's Cardinals versus Saints. This was a CPU game, and the Cardinals beat up on the Saints CPU. 38-17 is your final. Cardinals surprisingly moved to 2-0 on the season, while the Saints fall to 1-1. They have had their Week 3 game completed. The Giants and Coach Clyde moved to 1 on the season. They have played their Week 3 game with a 35-17 victory over the Dallas Cowboys as Johnny Football falls to 1-1 on the season. A matchup between NFC West and AFC East, which is the matchup this year for the NFC West and the AFC East. That's who they meet each other. 49ers win this one 23-13. San Francisco moves to 500 on the season, while the Patriots struggle out the gate at 0-2. Vikings and Rams, 33-20 is your final here. The Vikings move to 2-0, while the Rams fall to 0-2. In a simulated affair, the Lions beat the Seahawks in the sim 28-24. Your final there. Surprisingly, the Seahawks are at 0-2 early in the season, but Polio can make that up real quick. And the Lions rise up to 1-1 and 500 in the NFC North. Week 2 action between the Eagles and the Browns, and Coach Ross is having a tough time readjusting to playing games in the WFL again. He has struggled out of the gate a little bit with Deshaun Watson. He falls to 0-2 on the season with a 34-19 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. And Coach T-Hoof seems to be finding his groove with the Eagles after a rough transition to the Eagles midseason from the Browns. He is finding his footing in year 2 of Madden 24. 34-19 your final there. And in our game of the week, Washington Commanders, the NFC champions of season 6, go to Carolina in a tough opponent in the Panthers and win 36-28 your final there. Washington takes their record after 3 weeks to 2-1, while the Panthers fall to 1-1 on the season. Bear with me just 1 second as I take care of something. I will be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Had to take care of a cat issue that wanted out, so I'm letting them out even though it's starting to rain outside. Alright, as we jump in to the mix here, let me just check something. Okay, that was showing up while I was talking about it. We're going to jump over to our Ask the Chief segment, but before we do that, I do want to go over my offensive and defensive players of the podcast for this week as I turn that off. I shouldn't have been up to begin with. Whoops, you see a script. Just want to let you know our offensive and defensive players podcast for this week. Offense, I picked a team that, well, is surprisingly at the top of the AFC North, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I took quarterback Artie Hill, went 19 of 28 for 280 yards, 4 touchdowns to 1 interception, and a 38-31 shootout win over the Bengals. That's about the only way you're going to beat the Bengals is to win in a shootout because they will always put up points. So Coach Chill and the Steelers finally found his quarterback in Artie Hill, it looks like, as he leads the AFC North with a 1-1 record, but it's still very, very early in the season. My defensive player of the podcast also comes from the AFC North, but unfortunately this one was in a loss. Ravens outside linebacker, edge rusher, Odafe Owe, 4 tackles and 2 sacks. Unfortunately, it was in a loss, 37-20 to the Broncos. But the Ravens did get some pass rush out of Owe there. Unfortunately, it was not enough to carry and get a win, but he did perform very well even in defeat. Some honorable mentions: Texans wide receiver Keenan Allen on offense, Colts halfback Jonathan Taylor, Chargers halfback Brian Robinson, Bills quarterback Josh Allen, Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson, Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp on offense. And on defense, some honorable mentions: Jaguars quarterback Roman Middleton, Colts cornerback Julius Brents, Broncos safety Caden Stearns, and Bengals linebacker Jermaine Pratt. All got some good stats this week, in my opinion, on the defensive side of the ball, but not quite enough to earn the top honors for the defensive player of the podcast. And with that, we jump to our Ask the Chief segment, and I'm going to bold it up a little bit so we can get it visible to you guys. And there we go. And so Waffles, and this is right as I dropped the previous video, so this missed out last week's podcast that I recorded. Which pick was the biggest draft surprise? Well, I think the biggest draft surprise probably occurred in round 2, and that would have been a guy by the name of Landon Urban. Landon Urban was a guy that on the big board, if you looked at the big board, he had a very good rating on the big board. However, he wasn't a guy, he was a projected undrafted free agent, but he ran a horrendously fast 40 time. I believe it was in the 4.29 range. He was by far the fastest wide receiver at the combine. fastest receiver at the pro day. Looked like he couldn't catch a cold. Apparently, that was a little bit of a misnomer. He comes in with some solid ratings overall in the catching department. Can only run deep routes, so don't expect him to be a route technician. But a guy who basically takes the top off of defense, and with him and Quez Watkins joining the Falcons, that becomes an offense that has some verticality to it to go with guys like Kyle Pitts, with Drake London, and with Bijan Robinson and Taylor Algier in the backfield. So suddenly the Falcons have a slew of weapons, and that doesn't even include Cordero Patterson, who's going to be coming back in a couple of weeks from an ACL injury he incurred late last year. So that would be my biggest draft surprise, quite honestly, was seeing him go in the second round. Not usually in these drafts, unfortunately, it's one of those things where you see, if you see speed, even if it's like untalented speed or it looks like it's untalented speed, you'll see it go fast. This guy actually held out longer than I thought he would based on his 40 time, but he does go to probably a home that really needed him because they needed some offensive punch in Atlanta. So that's what they went and got in the second round. So good for the Falcons and good for Landon Urban. That's the biggest draft surprise, I feel like, of the entire thing. What team do you think got regressed the most from the offseason, and which team improved the most? I feel like I'm going to go to the same division, and it is, to be fair, it's week 2. We're just entering week 3. So it's really, really early in the mix. But I would probably say the biggest regression is going to be the Seahawks. Usually they come busting out the gate with about burning all their trades. Polio is a trade whore, and I say that with all love and respect to Polio. He usually burns through all of his allotted trades, which he has 6 as an All-Madden incentive member. He usually burns through all 6 like in 15 minutes from the time we allow trades. He didn't this year. He didn't have a whole lot of trades. I don't know if the phones weren't there to be answered or if he just wasn't getting the answers he wanted. But he didn't make a whole lot of deals. I think he was looking to basically move picks for talent. He's looking to kind of go into win now mode. I don't think he got everything he wanted. He still is looking right now. I know he's looking for an elite corner, even though all his corners are better than everybody on my team as far as secondary goes. But he's looking to improve there. He's looking to improve defense as a whole. I think he's just struggling to find some answers because he has a ton of weapons. He has Metcalf, Smith, and Jigba. He had Tyler Lockett. He cut Tyler Lockett. I believe he's got another wide receiver that replaced him with. He's got Trey Lance, who's a younger quarterback than Geno Smith, developing him. But he does coming due for a re-sign. So I think Seattle out the gate is kind of struggling. I wouldn't say regress, but they're struggling out the gate more than I anticipated. I figured them to be at least 500, if not undefeated at this point of the season. And the biggest surprise, oh God, I hate saying it. The Cardinals. Yep, I'm 2-0. I'm as shocked as you are. But to be fair, one of those games was against a CPU team that if Kendra was here, he would have probably beat me by 4 touchdowns. And then the other game was a tough matchup against the 49ers, who always will play you tough and gritty. I was lucky to eke out a win, and really lucky because my backup quarterback was in. Kyler Murray got hurt in the first quarter after basically giving the 49ers great field position and them getting at least 7 points out of it. We lucked out on the second interception that we got an interception right back, but I think the Cardinals right now, they're still talent deficient, but Coach Winuvas, I like what I have. I see a lot of talent, even though the numbers aren't there. I see a lot of talent. I'm looking forward to making Deion Kane a household name in the WFL and showing guys what Deion Kane can do. I'm hoping I get a full healthy season with him. Last year, I pretty much lost him for half of the year, but at the halfway point, he had almost 50 receptions and almost 700 yards. So you extrapolate that out over another half of the season, he would have been about a 1,500-yard receiver with about 100 receptions. So the guy can make plays. Alec Pierce, who I traded for with the Colts for Rondale Moore, has been a revelation. He's a huge body in the offense. McBride at tight end. My offensive line has gotten much better. I've improved there. I got Wyatt Teller in the offseason at guard. I drafted Spencer Wall. I signed Ryan Jensen. So I've basically done both a retool and a youth movement at the same time. And on defense, I've got a youth movement pretty much across the board. And I'm just looking to develop guys. I'm hoping I can get the most out of them on their rookie deals and then move on from them because rookie deals get expensive quickly. But right now, 2-0, we have, I feel like, the best quarterback tandem for the offense right now with Murray and with Malik Willis, who came in relief week 1. And basically, we didn't change the game plan at all because Malik Willis has a similar skill set. And Malik Willis threw 3 touchdowns and no picks. So he basically scored 4 touchdowns for us. Now, granted, the first one he ran in, Kyler Murray had set up and then got hurt. But Malik Willis basically won us that game. So I feel perfectly good throwing Malik Willis in there. I tried to trade him in the offseason to a team who needed starters. Nobody called. I'm perfectly happy to keep him as the best backup in the WFL, especially for my offense, which relies on read options, speed at the quarterback position, mobility, being able to get out of there whenever the going gets tough. So biggest surprise as far as just not disappointing start is the Seahawks. Biggest surprise is the Arizona Cardinals, but don't worry, we'll be 2-15 before you know it. So there's nothing really to worry about there. And last question on the docket, since I rambled a little bit on that second one. If you were a journalist, what are the top storylines in the WFL through 2 weeks? I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to take this back out and zoom out, and we're going to go to our homepage. Because I can show you real quick what some surprises are, or what I would say stories are. First storyline I would say is what happened to the AFC North. Yes, it's early. It is only week 3 right now. We're in the middle of week 3. But the leader in the division's at 500 at a 1-1 record. We have 3 teams with no wins on the season right now. That division is a one that's up for grabs if somebody decides to take the bull by the horns. But this is a division that has a former Super Bowl, I believe WFL Bowl finalist, a former WFL Bowl winner in Ross. Granted, he's had some time away from the game and hadn't played a whole lot, so he's getting back to speed with us. So there's that, but you've got 2 guys in there that are perennial playoff contenders. Now, granted, Ross did his with the Dolphins, and currently he's with the Browns. But the Bengals and Rusta have been there from the start of WFL 2.0. This is a rarity to see him struggling this much. And I know TJ Mack is learning his role with the Ravens. He took him over kind of late in the season last year, so he's kind of growing into that. And he's learning the WFL game way as far as how we play games. I think he's finding it'll be tougher competition than he's used to, but he's up to the challenge. And then Chill. I mean, Chill is just, well, he's Chill. I mean, when he has a quarterback that he likes, he can beat anybody anytime, and when he doesn't, he struggles mightily. Last year he had Kenny Pickett. He struggled mightily. This year he has Artie Hill, and so far through 2 games it looks to be clicking for him. He won Player of the Week this week. I think he's going to be moving forward, but the AFC North as a whole being that much of a drag on the league as a whole, that's a surprise to me early on. Still plenty of time to turn it around. And then the other surprise are some other storylines. Rookies. How are rookies doing so far through 2 weeks? And yes, it's only 2 weeks in, but you've got guys like Conrad Clemens at quarterback, who was drafted and basically ran Tua Tagovailoa out of town. You've got him with 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, almost 800 yards passing through 3 games. Reggie Nance, who's made a turnaround in Detroit, got him at 500 with 5-3 touchdown interception ratio, almost 600 yards passing through 2 games. Artie Hill, the aforementioned Artie Hill. You got Michael Madden in Dallas. You've got some guys that are as far as rushers. You got Kyrie Slade in Buffalo, Jacavius Marks in Washington. Brian Bethel's got a few yards there receiving wise. I mean, all the rookies. Gio Manning's a kind of a big surprise there. 13 catches, 213 yards. No touchdowns yet, but Tyler Forsett in the Packers, that's kind of a nice storyline there. You got him basically with 3 touchdowns, almost a little over 200 yards in 3 games, and the Packers are 2-1. So I think storylines would be rookies and how they're performing, getting used to their new teams. The surprise in the AFC North, and I think the NFC East is still strong. I'd say the other surprise storyline or storyline period is, can the Cardinals keep up the good winning ways? History tells me no, because I've seen the history of who's running that team, and I know that he will falter down the stretch. But early on, Arizona's flying high, and that's always good to see in the NFC West. And that's going to be a tough division because Polio can come back. Tuchol's got a tough 49er squad. And if TST can get the Rams together, he'll provide at least a challenge for divisional games for me. So we'll see how that works out. But those are my storylines, at least early on the season. We'll see how they change as we move on through the midpoint. And with that, folks, guess what? We have a show that comes to a close. We are done with questions, so we're going to move right into the outro. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether you were live or with the recording. I appreciate it. The WFL appreciates it, and we hope you were entertained by the show. Let us know by throwing us a like, subscribe, or leaving comments. Any feedback, good or bad, is always appreciated. And until next Monday, folks, when we go back to, I believe, a recorded show, the corner is closed.